back to the National Autosport Association, NASA National Championships, presented by Toyo Tires. We're at Miller Motorsports Park in Tooele, Utah, and that is the story, the wind. The weather has suddenly become an important part of this story. I am Bill Wood, a race fan, and I'm with John Lindsay, Chief Divisional Director of NASA, and we found out some things. First of all, in the first race today, we had maybe 3-4 cars blow up and oiled down the track in some places, and decided maybe that we didn't want to. They'd cut the race short, maybe about 15 minutes. What's happened here with this wind? You can see, the trees, the windsock, the flags. We're talking about 84-degree temperatures and wind, sustained winds at 21 miles an hour maybe, and wind gusts to 29 miles an hour. That's fairly substantial. We're at 4,500 feet, 4,500 to 5,000 feet. What does that mean for an engine in a high-performance car?
Well, we were talking to one of our friends that is a private pilot, and he was telling us that the air density is also really bad right now. The barometric pressure is falling quite a bit. And also the humidity right now is at 8%. So there's very little moisture in the air, which can assist with cooling some of these engines. And also the density of the air is not there, so it's not able to really be effective in cooling down all these cars that are out there. And we also can talk about the altitude having an effect on boiling point of water. When you cook pasta up here, you always have to cook it for another 5 minutes because that boiling point of the water is so low. So again, it's going to point to decreased cooling efficiency and maybe some more drama with some blown up engines.
So what kind of impact is that going to have on the German Touring Series National Championship race that they're going out starting the pace lap for right now? What kind of impact is that going to have? Some of these cars are air cooled, some of them are water cooled. These Porsches are both. The oil cooling. What's that going to mean for the cooling factor in these cars?
Well, we could see some overheating going on, and we could also see some guys that are naturally aspirated losing a little bit of power. But again, they are power to weight and checked on the dynamometer, so they will get a little bit of a break on the weight because they'll have a little less power because of the bad air. But, again, they can't really predict that right away. So unless they got on the dyno and scaled up or scaled down right before the start here, they're not going to have that kind of advantage.
The other thing that the wind will do, we're out in the desert here, and a lot of the loose dust and dirt and sand that is trackside is going to get blown across the track. That could have an impact on your ability to stay in contact with the road. They're going through an area right now where we can see from a distance there's a lot of crosswind that's blowing sand and debris and dirt across the track. So that could have an impact also on the car's handling when you're going through there, and places you expect to have grip don't exist anymore because now they're covered with debris.
Absolutely. So we are seeing the German Touring Series cars going back through the attitudes right there. The leaders are coming up into Tooele turn. Our first place car right there, Chad Nelson, David Levis, Ricky Boo Boo Johnson is next, Gilbert Galley, Ted Barrett, Jeff Amos, Jay Mattis, Dan Goodman, Gregory Dahlgarn, and Alexander Sabatos are our first 10 cars there coming through the grid.
We're on our pace lap. We're using the outer course at Miller Motorsports Park, a little over 3 miles, 15 turns, and the most important is what they're going through just about right now. The clubhouse turn is turn 13, 14 is called wind-up, and 15 going on to this 3,000-foot front straight is called release. If you screw up any of the turns over here, when you start down this 3,000-foot runway here to turn 1, that's where you want to have everything under control, and the more momentum you can carry onto that front straight, the better you're going to have. There you see the pace car coming off. The starter has the flag in hand, and we're about to go racing. There we got a green flag, and we're off. That the car on the pole is a World Challenge car from GMG Motorsports. He leads the field going into turn 1.
Yeah, that's one of those GT3 Cup 997 Porsches, and those are just amazing machines out of the box.
And it's showing he's got a commanding lead, maybe a couple of cars going out of the first turn.
And you'll notice that every car in the field here, being that it is the German Touring Series, is a German car. We've got Porsches and BMWs, and one, I think, lone VW in the field. But also in this series, we've seen Mercedes and all kinds of interesting things, even the odd Merkur. We allow Opels and NSUs in the rule, but we haven't seen any show up yet. But we have had Audis also.
Yeah, they ought to give some. They ought to have a class for the DTM. I love the German touring cars, and just the wings and the flares. I can see it just parked in the paddock, and we'll fall in love with it. But they're highly competitive and fabulous cars to watch. But this is the German Touring Series, part of the NASA National Championships here at Miller Motorsports Park. We have looks like starting to get a little competition here for the lead.
Yeah, we have 5 different classes, so we have to keep that in mind. Again, they're tiered by power-to-weight ratios, GTS 1 through 5, with 5 being the most powerful class. And again, we're looking at power-to-weight ratios based on the torque and other formulas factor in there as well if the car ends up having more torque than horsepower or less torque than horsepower. But again, the dynamometer will be critical to making sure these guys are legal too.
And that's always the thing about sports car racing. When you have multiple classes on the track at one time, the guy in 5th place doesn't be happy as planned because he might be leading his class and he gets his own national championship.
Coming across the line, looks like Chad Nelson held on to that top spot and is leading the entire grid and the GTS 5 field.
Chad Nelson over David Levis, Gilbert Dowell, Ricky Boo Boo Johnson. How does a grown man carry the name Boo Boo Johnson around with him and uses it on his entry? How does that happen?
Well, it's a good nickname, and hey, he seems to make it work.
Well, yeah, Boo Boo Johnson. I guess if you had that all your life, it doesn't matter. That's your identity. He's running 4th right now in the GTS 5 category. You can see the train of Porsches there at the front. Looks like we're going to get a little challenge here. And he slams the door on him. That's David Levis over Gilbert Galley. Galley, is that how you pronounce it?
I believe so, yeah.
Going back through the field, we see there's a pass. The BMW lets the Porsche get by. And it would make sense. They may not be in the same class. They're probably not in the same category. Would they? The BMW would be in a different class than the Porsche?
No, they'd be in the same class because remember, it's any German car, and then you're just looking at power to weight. So you could have a 911 and an M3 that would be in the same class.
So is this another one of the instances where you might start at a lower level and the more changes you make, performance changes, you add some more and move to a different class?
Yeah, it really is just, again, that power to weight where, it just is, what power and weight you select. You add a little bit more power, you're going to move up.
They seem to be getting through witchcraft going up to attitudes. That was the area that I mentioned before where there's a lot of blowing dust and sand across the track. I don't see a lot of concern or people worrying about the grip on the road, but we are finishing up our second lap. We're about 2 minutes into a 40-minute race. Chad Nelson, Gilbert Galley, David Levis, Robert Pritica, Boo Boo Johnson. It looks like the guy moving forward is Robert Pritica. He's moving about a second a lap faster than the leader. He's one of the fastest cars on the track, the #1 Porsche. He's moving up through the field. The leader is Chad Nelson. He's lapping at 2:06.9. Robert Pritica is lapping at 2:05.4. So he's about a second and a half faster, and you can see why he is moving up the field.
Yeah, and Robert started down in 23rd position on the grid, so he's already advanced almost 20 positions coming up through the field.
In 2 laps. That's an advantage of a track like Miller, where you have a lot of places. If you can maintain your momentum, that's when you could really get some time here, because there are a lot of very fast places on the track, as well as some very slow, like turns 13, 14, and 15. The discipline that it takes to get through turn 1 after this long straightaway. So there's a lot of gotchas in here. They're getting ready to go up through one of the areas that are real gotchas now. The leader, Chad Nelson, is going through the attitudes. That's the S's, where you also get some elevation change. This is a fairly flat track. When you go through the S's, you can see some elevation change through there. The attitude, it's called 8 is first attitude, 9 is second attitude, and 10 is bad attitude. So part of the gamesmanship of Miller Motorsports Park, every turn here has a name, a title. But the cars are coming through now. The leaders are in maybe the most significant corner on the track, turn 15, release, where you're released onto this long straightaway. And Chad Nelson still has maybe a 4 or 5 car. The acceleration in that car is amazing. You can see where he's opening up a good lead. He comes out with a good head of steam out of release, and he can maintain that. If he can maintain that distance, it's going to be very hard for anyone to catch him at the end of the straight and make a pass, even on some of the slower parts back of the track.
Well, you can see that Robert Prilica has moved right up onto Chad Nelson's bumper, so he is hauling the mail there and really trying to get out in front.
Yeah, but it seems like you're absolutely right, but it seems like Chad, at least on this last turn, he opened up maybe 1 or 2 car lengths between the exit to 15 and the start-finish line. If he's able to maintain that, that could mean something for the end of the race.
Yeah, exactly. But again, we're 40-minute race, so maybe Roberts is laying back and letting Chad overheat his tires and just waiting for that opportune moment to strike.
And again, with the very dry air, there's only 8% humidity in the air, and the wind, the temperature, 80 plus degrees, 86 degrees. Is that what it said? 80?
Yeah, it's getting warmer. It's
84 degrees.
Up to 84 degrees.
Yeah, so, and the wind and so forth, they're talking about 23 mile an hour winds and gusts of 31. So it's changing. And is that going to have any impact? Is that a smart thing for Prilica to do, to let Nelson run out there and just watch and see what kind of impact this weather and the air conditions are going to have to what is going on with the car on the track?
Well, it's always a bit of a poker game, so you don't know whether it's good to get out in front of him or stay right on him. And, it just is a judgment call. But you can see right now they're coming into release, and it looks like Prilica got a little bit of a better run in there. Now they're really starting the drag race down the front straight.
And it seems like Nelson is really he's got, that was maybe a second gear turn in release. So maybe he's got better gearing, but he's opening up some distance. And if he can maintain that, if he can get another car length or 2 with each lap, that could bode well.
Well, I believe both of those front 2 cars are GT3 Cup 997 chassis Porsches, so they're probably identically prepared, and they are, just looking at the ability of the driver there. But those are absolutely awesome machines out of the box, and if I'm correct, I think they have a sequential gearbox in there, and they are just flying.
There was a guy, Jeff Swart, who's a commercial photographer who runs it in rallies, and you can see there Nelson made a little mistake and allowed Prilica to catch up with him.
He's right there.
Yeah, so much for running away with the race. That's the momentum. We talked about that, and if cars are equal in performance, momentum is so important, and Chad Nelson lost some momentum there. Seems to be opening up some gap again here, but you can't afford to make a mistake, and who knows if that mistake might have been due to maybe some grip issues with the sand on the surface of the track.
Well, it looks like Prilica, when they were coming into the attitudes there, it looked like Prilica was just eating his lunch under braking, so that may be where Robert is looking to make his move coming down here into the clubhouse turn. And these slower corners, let's watch the braking and see how close they get.
They're running up on some back marker traffic. That's going to have an impact. This is probably a good place to run into that traffic on a straight part of the track, and the guy got out of the way, so allowed him to happen. And let's watch the acceleration and see if, it's still, he's opening up a lot of distance, a lot more acceleration coming out of the slow part of the track.
Yeah, and you can see that both of those cars are pretty evenly matched, so this is going to be a great battle for the win, overall P1 win, and also for the GTS 5 class.
Chad Nelson, Robert Prilica, Gilbert Galley, David Levis, Ricky Boo Boo Johnson. That's our top 5 in the GTS 5 category, also the top 5 in the race. And leading the GTS 4 is Jeff Amos. GTS 3 is Jay Matus. And second, I have to give a call out to this guy, second in GTS 4 is a splendid chap named Bill Woods. I wonder who that guy is.
Well, maybe a long-lost plural brother.
Yeah, there's 2 of us there, so maybe he gets the plural in the name, Bill Woods. In fact, there was, without going into too much family history, there used to be an S in my name, and my grandfather dropped it. So maybe he is related. Who knows?
Never know, never know.
Chad Nelson is our leader, running in a 2-minute range, 2 minutes, 0.462 seconds.
We just saw Prilica challenging him going into the attitudes.
So the green car right there, that's my namesake. Let's make sure that he gets a lot of airtime, guys. Of course, every time we showed somebody in the first race, they blew up. So maybe we got to get him off the camera.
Yeah, I don't know if you're doing him any favors with the
right,
airtime.
Exactly.
You know, we just have coming across the line there Charlie Bazzetti, who we saw yesterday in 944 spec. Now he's out here running in GTS 1.
In a German car in a 944. So this is the German Touring Series. So that means that everybody in the class has to have a German car, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, you can't show up in a Japanese car. You won't see any Evos out here.
There we have a shot of Jeff Amos, our GTS 4 leader. Another Porsche. So Porsche's having a pretty good day here.
Jeff Amos and Bill Woods, that's a fight for position, the battle for first in the GTS 4 category. They're 7th and 8th on the track in the race, but again, this is a class category, so they're fighting for a class championship in the NASA National Championships presented by Toyo Tires. So right now, Amos is running in the 209 category, and right behind him, Bill Woods is running in the 208 category. So Woods is a little faster. It's just a matter of where he can make the pass. They just passed the start-finish line, headed for turn 1. Let's see, he's drafting him now. Let's see if he can maybe make the pass going into 1. No, he's not close enough. So ultimately, though, if he's going to be a second faster, then he's going to pass him at some point.
Well, and it's interesting to see the old and the new Porsche here. We've got the water-cooled 996 and then the oil-cooled 911, and they are just right together. So it's interesting to see the lineage there and the battle that's going on.
That's always the case, and we mentioned this in the last race, but here's another case where performance is equaled with weight and so forth, so that cars that are supposed to be faster. Now, Woods is making a move on Amos, and whether or not he can get around him is another issue. Moving on someone is one thing, but getting around him, even though he's faster, might be a problem. If he could stay close enough to when they get around here to 15, and he could get off of 15 fast enough, then he could pass him on this long straight, because it seems like he's faster.
Yeah, and it's really challenging to drive a 911 quickly, so you'll watch both of these guys. The one thing they can do, if we ever see a battle here between say a BMW M3 or something like that and 911, you have to come in a little softer into the corners, and then you can really go. Coming out, you can launch, because the rear engine just gets that weight right over the drive wheels.
So we're back looking at the 944 class. That would be, what, GT1 or 2?
GTS 1, and that's Charlie Bazzetti.
Charlie Bazzetti, he's leading GTS 1, and Scott Bove, they were battling in the 944 spec category yesterday, and they're bringing the same battle here to the GTS class.
Well, we try to make it appealing for people to run in multiple classes. We do it like the fast food establishments with our supersizing, and both Charlie and Scott wanted to take advantage of that.
The more track time, the better. I mean, that's what you spend money, you invest in a car. So it looks like Amos has managed to withstand a little bit of the challenge from Bill Woods, but we'll see. I got to cheer. I'm not supposed to cheer for one guy or the other, but when the guy has your name, you have to have a little special attention.
Oh, go ahead, Bill. We just won't put the camera on him a lot, so he won't blow up.
He's got a chance.
We want to keep that camera off him if possible.
Charlie Bazzetti,
don't want the curse.
Our 2009 944 spec champion, had some problems yesterday. He wasn't able to win the race, but maybe he could come around and get a GTS 1 category.
Yeah, I think Charlie would love that. He's been a mentor of mine for many years, and I talked to him yesterday in impound in the 944 spec class, and he said he just didn't have it for David Dirks, and looks like he was able to find a little bit of speed, and he and Scott Beauvais are going at it, and that's great to see those two guys.
And those cars, the 944, they are Porsches, but we were talking a little bit about it this morning before we started. It's interesting, those cars are very budget conscious. You can get those cars for little or nothing, and you can go out and have a race car, a Porsche race car, and have a lot of fun for not a lot of money.
Well, and Charlie's car is actually a 924S, so it's the narrower 924 body with the 944 motor. And the 944 motor in itself is actually just the 928 V8 cut in half. The 924s originally came with a fairly horrible motor out of an Audi truck. And when Porsche introduced the 44, they put in that engine that was a whole heck of a lot better.
Yeah, I'd heard once that the they wanted to bring out the 928 with the big V8, and that was ready to come online about the time of the 70s oil crisis and the gas crisis. So instead of bringing out a V8 motor, they bought out the 924, and that was very underwhelming to many people here in the United States. Much of the rest of the world, it was called a Volkswagen instead of a Porsche. This is the NASA National Championships presented by Toyo Tires. We're at Miller Motorsports Park using the outer course, a little over 3 miles. Tooele, Utah. The weather is a big concern, not a concern, but it's having an impact on the racing. We'll explain a little bit of that when we come back right after this.
The 2010 National Autosport Association National Championships is brought to you by Toyo Tires, driven to perform.
Quality and value. Style. Performance. Sure, you want it all. Just don't want to spend it all. No problem. Just go with the brand voted #1 overall. Toyo Tires. For 7 of the last 9 years by people who know best. Independent tire dealers, just like me. So for top quality and top value, take it from the pros. Toyo Tires.
Welcome back to the NASA National Championships presented by Toyo Tires. We're at Miller Motorsports Park. I'm Bill Wood, and I'm with John Lindsay, Chief Divisional Director at NASA, and we've had some changes at the top of a couple of categories in this race. This is the GTS German Touring Series race. They have 5 classes. Most of them are Porsches of one form or another, one age or another. We had at the top of the ladder in the GTS 5 category, we had Robert Prilica was chasing Chad Nelson. Nelson has been our leader from the drop of the green flag, but Prilica has spun. Is that what you noticed? He spun somewhere?
Yeah, it looks like he was coming down into windup and got loose. I was looking at something else, and I turned around, and there he was. And he was stalled dead in the water for a little bit, but he got it running again and fired it back up.
Chad Nelson is in a beautiful Porsche, World Challenge Porsche from GMG Motorsports in Southern California. That's it there on the screen right now. I think that blue and white car. He's our race leader. He's running laps in the 2019 area. He was, when he was hooked up with Prilica, they was running as much as 2 minutes flat. They were racing each other at the top of the ladder for the race lead and the class championship. But after Prilica spun, that left Nelson out there by himself, so he's eased up a little bit.
Looks like we have a shot there of Valley Predescu, our GTS 2 leader. Again, another Porsche.
Valley Predescu, that's the number 151 Porsche. He's the GTS 2 leader over Brad Waite, who is the number 2 in the class, and number 73. He's the number 2 in the class in GTS 2. Now, they started GTS 1, and they make some modifications and get to GTS 2 and work their way up the ladder until GTS 5 is the fastest of the 5 categories in the German Touring Series.
Yeah, and we actually also have a GTS Unlimited class once you get below a certain power-to-weight ratio. So, these cars are really, really high horsepower, but they aren't completely as nuts as some of the Super Unlimited cars we saw in the previous race there.
So a GTSU car would be what? That'd be like a 935 or something like that?
Yeah, probably a 935 or maybe a GT3 RSR. And there's Jay Mattis, one of our Texas region officials, and he is charging down there in GTS 3. Jay is really fired up, I'm sure now. He's had some heartbreak before, and this would be his, I believe, his first chance at the top step here, and if he can bring it home, I think he would be thrilled.
Now remember, this is the national championships for the National Autosport Association. There are 5 classes on the track here at one time. You're looking at the Class 3 leader, Jay Mattis. He is the GTS 3 leader in that black Porsche. We got a little kerfluffle going on there. The car, the red, yellow, and green 944 that's just out of frame there, that's the GTS 1 leader. And
that's Robert Prilica trying to work his way back. So he was coming through there and saying, "Look out, boys, I got some work to do."
Yeah, he was the second in the GTS 5 class and spun between turns 14 and 15. So he's got some work to do to catch up with Chad Nelson, the race leader and the class leader, and the one who is going towards his championship. We're 22 minutes into a 40-minute race. Robert Prilica has fallen back to 6th in the class after being running in the second in class, but he still is turning some quality times. 2:02.5 was his last lap to 2:02.9 for the Chad Nelson, who was leading the race.
Jay Mattis is doing a good job, because I look at the overall here, and he is actually going fast enough that he's worked himself up to the GTS 4 cars. So he's in the 3 car, but he's running quick enough and smart enough to be up there with the 4 leaders as well.
In fact, he is running about equal time with the GTS 4 leader, and he's ahead of the second in class in GTS 4.
Yeah, he's pedaling as hard as he can.
Yeah, that happens. Like you said, it's like a duck sometimes, It looks like he's just out for a Sunday drive, but he's grabbing gears and really slamming along.
You bet.
We're looking at Robert Prilica, who is 6th in GTS 5, but he is running times that are among the fastest in the race. In fact, his last lap was the fastest in the race at 2:02.5. So he's working hard. Whether or not he has enough time to catch up is anybody's guess. We're about 22 minutes into a 40-minute race, and he is running about a half a second faster than the race leader, Chad Nelson.
And we have a shot there. I think that's Robert Maples and Ian Cole, and there we were talking about VWs and Audis, and there they are. And Ian is actually our National Series Director, and he's in the GTI there trying to chase down that Audi.
Now, we finally see something besides a Porsche in the race. Those are still 2 German cars, but something besides a Porsche.
Yep, and the interesting thing there to think about is that the GTI is front-wheel drive, and then the Audi is all-wheel drive. So might be a little bit of a better launch, but then the GTI might be having a little better luck with putting the power down on the straightaways there without the drag of the all-wheel drive system.
So this is a battle for third in class, not third overall in the race.
Yeah, that's for GTS 2 for P3 and P4, so they're having a great battle out there, those two guys. So that's the last step on the podium, and I can tell you that Ian really wants to be there.
Robert Maples and Ian Cole. Maples is in the Audi and Cole is in the VW.
And Ian's actually brought that car up to the 25 hours at Thunderhill before and run it. So he has certainly put some time on that low Volkswagen.
The last lap, Cole is running a little faster, maybe a half-second faster than Maples. And his best lap is as much as a second faster than Maples. So he is working hard, but getting around somebody and being faster than them are two different things.
Well, and if I remember right, both of those cars are probably turbocharged. And if they are starting to run into that problem with the heat and the bad air, probably not running as much boost, and that may be why Ian was faster earlier, and now the car is probably dialing back the boost a little bit because he may be getting some detonation with that really hot water temperature and also the thin air that we're seeing today.
Again, we are about 4,500 feet elevation, and
there's Charlie and Scott again, still battling for the lead in GTS 1. Looks like Scott's going to try the outside move to get by Charlie. They are drag racing.
It looks like he pulled it off. He went around him on the outside.
Wow, way to go, Scott.
This is a battle for first in GTS 1. These are the slowest cars in the race. Scott Beauvais has gotten around Buzetta, who is the 2009 944 spec champion. They're running the same cars that they ran in the race yesterday in the 944 spec race.
Here comes Jay Mattis. He's going to let those guys respect their battle and just smoke on by him so he can put some more distance between himself and the rest of the GTS 3 field.
You're a driver. Tell me a little bit about how difficult it is to stay focused when you have maybe 5-6 second gap on your competition.
It's very hard, and if you get too happy and too start kind of believing your own press releases there, you can really lose concentration easily. And sometimes it's hard. A lot of guys are, they need someone to chase, or they need someone chasing them right away in order to be consistent. And I've seen people that when they get out in front, they'll just make mistakes that they don't make when they're absolutely getting pressure.
And early in his, there's Beauvais. He's lost control of the car and spun into the sand. Now he's up to the axles there. He's not going to be able to get out of that. So is that going to bring out a full course caution?
I don't know if he does look like he's right in an impact area, so we might see a full course caution, which of course will be good news for Robert Prilica, who's trying to move up through the order. But Scott looked like he was buried pretty good, so they're probably going to have to get him out of there. They may be able to pull it off with covering him with a waving yellow there and maybe backing it up with a standing yellow to the station before, but they definitely are going to have to yank him out of there.
What's amazing, we were just talking about guys who maybe don't have the ability to handle being in front, and Scott was in front. He had made the great move to pass Charlie and blew it.
Well, it's the old story of I got it, I don't got it, I don't got it.
With a national championship at stake, that's really tough. We are more than halfway through the race, so he's only got about, 10, 12 minutes at 2-minute laps. So we only had about 5-6 laps left to go in this race, and he had just passed for the lead, and there you go.
I wonder, it almost looked like there was something slippery there that Scott may have gotten into. And we just saw another car go off in the same place, the number 31 GTS 5 car. So there may be something slippery that Scott got into, and it may not have been a case of losing focus.
Again, in the first race today, we had 4 or 5 cars lose their engines and blow up. One had some water problems and was pouring steam from the car. So maybe there are places, they checked out the track before they started this race, but maybe there are some problems with, they missed an area, and they haven't done anything. They left Scott there. That's at the outside of turn 13, clubhouse turn. So maybe they're going to let this go and let the race continue. They cut the first race short. It was supposed to be 40 minutes, and they only ran about, 22 minutes, was it?
They actually got up to about 30, so they were about, 10 minutes short. And now we've got a debris flag on the front straightaway, so there may be some more junk out there, which might result again in having to cut a race short so we can surface the track and make sure it's all cleaned off.
Again, our race leader, we haven't talked about him for a minute, is Chad Nelson. He's led from the drop of the green flag. He's running 2:04 times, 2:04 for Gilbert Galley, who is in second. But the fastest guy, David Levis, is 2:03. He's in third place. The fastest guy on the track continues to be Robert Prilica, who was chasing Chad Nelson in the first 10, 15 minutes of this race. And now he's running about 2 seconds a lap faster than Nelson. And he has 10 minutes to go to make up that time differential. But he's a good ways. He's a good piece back right now. He's maybe 30, 35 seconds back. So I don't know that he can catch Chad unless Chad makes a mistake.
Yeah, it's going to be tough to do. So he's really hoping that they bring out a pace car to bunch up the field and maybe go get Scott Beauvais. But it looks like they're going to let it keep going and give him as much green flag racing as possible. Now we're taking a look at our second place GTS 3 car. It's Gregory Dahlgren there in a older model 911, and he is okay. My spotter just told me that it was actually the BMW that's trying to chase Jay Mattis down in his Porsche. So we have a BMW trying to challenge for the lead and not let it be a sweep by Porsche.
Mattis is turning some really good times. In fact, he is turning about a second a lap faster than the leader in GTS 4 ahead of him. So he is really driving an excellent race.
Yeah, Jay is very focused, and he is really trying to put on a clinic here and take home his first championship in GTS 3.
Again, the BMW that you're looking at there on the screen is Gregory Dahlgren, as they just gave the white flag. We're on the final lap to this race to Chad Nelson. This is the final lap. Chad Nelson is the leader.
Looks like we got a big blow up there on the right after Tooele turn back there. It looks like some kind of really big
yeah, somebody spun and got off the course, threw up a lot of dust and dirt. It's a BMW. It's not a Porsche. It's a BMW. I can't get a number. The sun is glaring right where I can't see it. Yeah. We're on the final lap to this race, the GTS category race. 5 classes are out here. The leader in the GTS 5 and the leader in the race is Chad Nelson. That's the blue Porsche we're looking at right now. He has been sort of cruising since his only competition, his real competition, was Robert Prilica, who spun maybe 10, 12 minutes ago and lost the lead. Prilica is still the fastest guy on the track, and
looks like there's some slippy stuff back there after the Tooele turn and just before the clubhouse turn, because we had another car go around. So there may be some oil and debris over there, and that's going to be something that they have to clean up.
And there is a kink, they call it the kink, between Tooele turn and the clubhouse turn, and maybe some of the guys are trying to take that too fast, and you see the kink right there, and maybe some of the cars are trying to take that too fast. That's Chad Nelson, who is that's Nelson there, the race leader. Is going through 13, approaching 14 right now, 15, and he's going to be coming toward the start-finish line as the winner of this race, the winner of the class, GTS 5 class, and we can see right in front of him, there's the race going into the Volkswagen has passed the Audi, and now the Audi is just past the Volkswagen. That's in the GTS 2 race, right?
Right, and Ian Cole just got a bad hand dealt to him, because if Chad Nelson would have come around maybe 3 or 4 seconds quicker, but Cole just took it back.
Cole just took it back. Wow, this is a good race going here in the final lap. The race is over. These two are in the GTS 2 category. They're racing for a national championship here. Ian Cole had the lead, gave it up on the front stretch to the Audi, and now the Audi has just gone too wide, lost his momentum, dropped the wheel in the dirt, and it looks like Ian Cole may be able to hold on for a national championship run. It's over Robert Maples in the Audi there, the four-door Audi.
And that's actually, it's not for the overall win in GTS 2, though. I think those guys are battling for 3 and 4. So Ian is really just trying to get on the podium here, and I know he will be absolutely thrilled if he manages to hang on to that third place.
I stand correct. The GTS 2 leader is
Valley Predescu.
So he's the one that's going for the national championship. We're just seeing some great racing here between guys that are running in the back of the pack trying to get on the podium, from Ian Cole and Robert Maples that's chasing him in the Audi. We're on the final lap in the GTS category, the German Touring Series category race at the NASA National Championships presented by Toyo Tires.
That's going to be a race to the end with Robert and Ian there. I saw Robert going off, and he's pushing as hard as he can, but I don't think he's going to be able to pull it off, and I think Ian has secured the final step on the podium. But hold on, let me touch wood here. Not Bill Wood.
Yeah, Bill Wood, he was in another car.
Right, but it looks like Ian's going to take it home as he comes out of release there and hits down the front straight to take that checker and secure that third spot in GTS 2.
So there's going to be 5 champions coming out of this race in each one of the classes. GTS 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Our race winner and the GTS 5 winner was Chad Nelson over Gilbert Galley, David Lavis, Ricky Boo Boo Johnson. That's what that little gefluffle there, Ricky Boo Boo Johnson. Robert Prilica, who was by and large, after he went out, the fastest car on the track, but after he spun, he couldn't catch up with Chad Nelson, and Ted Barrett, who is 5th in the race and 5th in class. Alexandra Sabatos, Richard Barrett, Jeff Amos, and Bill Woods, my guy, finished 4th. Jay Mattis, Gregory Dalgarn, Doug Grande, Brian Turner, and Matthew Seach.
So Jay won it in GTS 3. Way to go.
Yeah. GTS 2 is Val Predescu, Brad Waite, Ian Cole over Robert Maples, that big challenge that we saw there at the end, and Dale Lausman. So we had Charles Bezzetta and Bove, who was in the kitty litter over there. They're pulling him out. But Charles Bezzetta, who was the 2009 944 spec class winner, lost his 944 championship yesterday, and now he has taken home the GTS 1 category win in the German Touring Series. So he gets to go home with the trophy after all.
Way to go, Charlie.
We are in the NASA National Championships presented by Toyo Tires at Miller Motorsports Park, where the weather is having an impact on the racing here between the wind and the dry conditions. We are going to break right now. We're going to come right back. They're going to impound. We'll talk a little bit about the impound procedures and who pays for having their car torn apart by the inspectors there in impound. We'll be right back.
The 2010 National Autosport Association National Championships is brought to you by Toyo Tires, driven to perform.
Quality and value. Style. Performance. Sure, you want it all. Just don't want to spend it all. No problem. Just go with the brand voted #1 overall, Toyo Tires. For 7 of the last 9 years by people who know best. Independent tire dealers, just like me. So for top quality and top value, take it from the pros. Toyo Tires.